Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And so if you're on the 405, the 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, and the 110, happy Thursday. We're in conversation with Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, Strategic Alliance Consultant, and President of Party Politics US. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Jesse, it's good to be here.
I'm glad you're here, my brother. Listen, I'm honored that you brought a very special guest with us, Dr. Marvin Dunn, who's a historian, an educator, an author, a filmmaker, and professor emeritus of psychology at Florida International University, a Florida native and U.S. Navy veteran. He spent decades researching race relations and documenting African-American history in Florida. Dr. Dunn is particularly known for his work preserving and educating the public about Rosewood, the Black Florida community destroyed during the racial violence in 1923 in Ocoee, where violence erupted after Black citizens sought to exercise their right to vote on Election Day in 1920. Through his scholarship, books, films, and public education work, Dr. Dunn has worked to ensure that these stories are not forgotten and to help younger generations understand how Florida's history connects to the larger American story of race, democracy, and voting rights. Dr. Dunn, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Dr. Dunn, I want to dive right in because I think this is a very important and pertinent topic. I want to begin with the history of that particular struggle, and we can do that, I think, in the first segment of the show. But it occurs to me that the context within which that history occurred was violence during an election. And the moment could not be more ripe. Every single week in this process, we hear another executive order or some other decision made by this administration that threatens the fundamental right to vote. But with that said, let me begin by welcoming you to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Dr. Dunn, you spent decades telling stories that many people were never taught. What made you decide that preserving this history was going to be a part of your life's work?
Because these stories are very painful to read and to hear. They're the easiest kinds of stories to rush away from. Florida was the most violent of all the southern states in terms of lynching. In fact, during the lynching era, if you lived in Florida, your chances of being lynched were greater than if you lived in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia. That has been Florida's history. And Florida has not been willing ever to face up to that history. And once I started looking into these stories, I found so much that was just hidden, covered up, that we were not supposed to know. And that drove me to want to find out even more about these events, and especially the events in Rosewood.
The violence was extraordinary in that period. Can you share with us more about the specifics of those events, Doc?
Well, Ocoee, 1920, very, very timely to talk about that event. July Perry, Julius Perry was his name, was a black man who lived in Ocoee, which is about 15 miles from Orlando in Central Florida. And he was a crew chief. That is, he gathered up other men, and then he would take these crews to orange groves to pick oranges for citrus growers, white citrus growers. He himself was also a grower. So he was very powerful in Central Florida. If you got July Perry mad, he just wouldn't send anybody to pick your oranges. Very, very powerful position for a black man. Anyway, 1920, a very contentious year in this country, he decides to try to vote. He goes to the polls, he's turned away, and he goes to a federal judge in Orlando, a Judge John Cheney was his name, and asked the judge what to do about it. And the judge gave him some very, very stupid advice. He told July to go back to the polls and get the names of the people who would not let me vote and bring them back and report that to me. That was a very dangerous thing. July goes back as a friend, Moses Norman with him. They get turned around at the polls. There's a question about who had a gun. They could both go home. And a mob comes hours later to challenge these men. Moses Norman had a brand new Oldsmobile car. He takes off for Harlem, and he's not been heard from since that day. But the mob comes to July Perry's house. They surround the house. It's just Perry and his family, and they start shooting into the house. And they killed two members of the mob. Two white men get killed by friendly fire. Word goes out all over the press, though, that black men in Ocoee have killed two white men. And here comes the mob. All of that over a total lie. I checked into this. I saw the coroner's report. I saw the sheriff's report. They died from friendly fire, folks coming into the home. July Perry managed to crawl out. His family was not home. He crawled out of the door into a cane field they had and was trying to get away. But his dog kept coming to him. That brought the mob to him. That's how he got arrested and eventually lynched for his attempt to vote. So that's why in these moments, we need to appreciate people like July Perry. I take students several trips a year to this man's grave. I take them to July Perry's grave in Orlando, and we stand over his grave and we tell his story. And I encourage the students to touch the tombstone. You never know if someone knows that you're there or not. So to me, it's important to restore these heroes so that we know who they were, who they are, and to lift them up. And most importantly, to have our young people go to where this history was made, walk the ground where the history was made, and then have an emotional attachment to these stories. It's a long answer to a short question.
Dr. Dunn, I know we'll be coming forward in just a moment. And Atiba, I know you're going to be joining the conversation very forcefully because we don't know which states' voter rolls are going to be available in this election. That's increasingly becoming a truth. The president is demanding that the Department of Justice sends certain rolls to certain states in certain jurisdictions for so-called eligible voters. And what happens in 2026 when someone goes to the polls and they've been voting for years or even decades? They say, I'm suddenly no longer a registered voter. And they go back and follow the exact same path of Ocoee. Tiba Madian, our very special regular contributor, has a solution. Let's vote so heavily in this election that we overwhelm the polls, and no one can say or deny that we didn't win. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're studying the history in Florida today of Ocoee. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
You know him, you trust him, and now the whole nation is taking notice. Talkers Magazine, the Bible of talk radio, has ranked Tavis Smiley number 14 on their prestigious Heavy 100 list. 100 voices, the most important in all of talk radio. Tavis has moved from number 45 to number 33 to number 16, and now he's in the top 15, right here on your station. His is one of the most trusted, credible, and reliable voices in broadcast media today. Straight, no chaser, always. Tavis brings you the conversations that matter, the newsmakers, the truth tellers, the voices that don't get heard anywhere else. Weekdays on this station. This is what it sounds like when your community has a seat at the table.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
I'm an Eaton Fire hero. I was trapped there January 7th, 2025. So I was awarded the Carnegie American Red Cross and the Kiwanis Lifesaver Award. So to me, this looks like a slow burn where you can constantly see Dr. Hardy, Pastor Caldwell, Mr. Smiley here. Their business is slowly impacted. Now in Altadena, it was a quick burn. Everybody left. Everybody got priced out. They didn't have enough money to stay afloat. They couldn't rebuild their property. So to me, this is a target for the developers. In my opinion, having been in Altadena for 18 months, still today, I still feed all of those people there because they're still displaced because they can't afford to come back. So what do? They move down to the Inland Empire, or they just call it a day and they go back to another state. So it's important to hold leadership accountable because as of right now, they've abdicated their responsibility. They just show up for the cameras and they don't even come to see you.
Keeping them in check. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are in conversation with Atiba on Thought Provoking Thursday. Our very special guest, Dr. Marvin Dunn, is a historian, educator, author, filmmaker, and professor emeritus of psychology at Florida International University. A Florida native, a man of honor, a U.S. Navy veteran. He spent decades researching race relations and documenting African American history in Florida. Atiba, I can't get off my mind that you often say that we must overwhelm, Atiba, we must overwhelm the polls in 2026. Dr. Dunn is bringing forward a story when African Americans were concerned and did not find their names on voter rolls, what the consequences were then in 1920 and what they could be now. Atiba?
Yes, Dr. Dunn, thank you again so much for joining us today. And I know a few days ago we had a chance to talk, and we're talking about Ocoee and what happened in terms of voting. Can you give us a little bit, and I think some of us know, but sometimes I feel like we need to revisit it. Like, why was Black African American political participation considered such a threat?
Why was it such a threat?
Why was it such a threat? Yes.
Oh, because there were so many Black people in the South. There were counties in the South, many of them, including in Florida, where there were more Black voters, potential, than white voters. So the Black vote had to be suppressed. And there was a lot of violence used to make sure that happened. Talk about depressing or trying to repress the Black vote. In Miami, in 1939, a very, very contentious election. The Klan rode through Black Miami and set dummies on fire, warning people, this nigga voted. 1939, the most contentious election we've had in Miami. The Black vote was overwhelmingly heavy, the heaviest vote we ever had. I think if you look through history, those times when there's been efforts to suppress our vote, we have responded with even a greater turnout of voters. And I'm hoping that will happen this time.
Doc, let me ask you a question.
I didn't tell you how the Ocoee event ended. We sort of just stopped with the lynching, but just to round that story out.
Yes, Doc. Let me ask you a question because
yes.
I'm a little bit concerned that when we hear this transition in voting, we have a historical account in Ocoee of African Americans who went to a federal judge. They went to the federal government, to the federal bench to seek relief. You said the judge made a mistake when he said, go back and get the names of the people who turned you away.
Yes, correct.
Judge, share with me, Doc. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Doc. I want you to share with us how those circumstances don't sound exactly like the kind of election we could be looking at in 2026.
There is no difference. When the mob took July Perry from jail, they took him to Orlando, to the street where Judge Cheney lived, and lynched him 2 or 3 houses down from Judge Cheney's house. They took that man 20 miles away from Ocoee, brought him into Orlando to the street on which the federal judge lived that had told him to go back and find out who suppressed your attempt to vote. The story ends with a mass burning of Black homes in Ocoee. Ocoee had 2 Black sections, the north and south sections. The mob attacked the south section of Black section of Ocoee, burned it to the ground. We don't know how many people died. Not probably, those who did die were mostly women and children who could not get out of those shacks in time to save their lives. In the aftermath, there is in Ocoee a mass grave. It's just a field, no markers. There's a picket fence around it. And there in that field, we don't know how many dozens, if not hundreds, of victims of the Ocoee massacre are in that mass grave. And I take tours there too, to the Ocoee mass grave, and we can see how unmarked it is. But that's all a part of trying to keep the history under wraps.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn. Atiba? Atiba, you're muted. Atiba's muted at this moment. Now you're not muted. Dr. Dunn, let me ask you another question. I'm thinking that there are some real things about the sacrifices that young people need to understand from previous generations as we reflect upon the right to vote in this generation. Oftentimes we say Dr. King died for us and Malcolm paid the price, and we go through the contemporary civil rights martyrs who lost their lives in this struggle. But what you're giving us here is a data point in Jim Crow, that is real to what we are looking at even on this day. In fact, I can't escape this conversation about Jim Crow, in part because even Target is under fire right now for having a Halloween costume that has black and orange, kind of like a pumpkin, or the kind of Halloween, and it has a large smiley face like a minstrel. In fact, 1,500 Target stores across the country are removing those costumes because of the outrage associated with it. And yet here you are giving us, less than 90 days before we come to vote again, exactly what happened during that period when minstrel shows were actually tolerable.
Absolutely.
Dr. Dunn?
I just want
comparison to Jim Crow.
Yeah. Just, I'm a child of Jim Crow. I'm 86 years old. I knew your dad, incidentally. I was born in Florida in 1940. I sat on the back of the bus. I can remember my mom, and we would get on the bus with my brothers. My mother would take our hand as we walked past the white people to get to the back of the bus and sit down and she would relax. I went to the back doors of white people. I lived Jim Crow. And I'll tell you, I can remember the 6 times I was called a nigger. So you never get past this kind of hurt. Racial pain hurts badly. You never get over it. That's one reason why it should be so illegal as it is. But our young people they have no association with that emotionally. Of course, they didn't live it, of course not. So when we tell stories about sitting on the back of the bus and going to segregated schools, our young people today can't connect to that emotionally. They can maybe intellectually as we tell them these things. But until they sit down with some of us who lived it, or read or see or pay attention to those of us who lived that life, it's going to be very difficult for them to see the imperative to vote, to make the commitment that those of us in the older generation feel that they should be making at this point. One other point, just if I may, someone told me that only that 80% of the black vote is people over 50 years of age. That the old folks are the ones carrying the burden. That only 12% of the black vote is under 30. What's wrong with these youngins? They're not voting.
The answer to that question baffles so many of us. In fact, Atiba has a movement that he has been leading across the country called Midterms Effing Matter to get this particular generation's attention. But we are seeing them. I mean, we've seen them initially in the Mamdani race. We've seen them in the sister who just won statewide in the state of Florida. That's definitely some
Andrew
progress.
Nixon, yes, for
Sister Nixon. I'm trying to get her on the show. She has reached out, and we plan to have her on sometime next week. And so we do see young people who are being very forceful. Brother Pearson out of Tennessee. I mean, they're stepping up, and they're stepping up in the South, from the deep South. That's right. Knowing exactly what it is that they are looking at in this space in terms of timing. But I'm wondering why, because you touched upon it in one of your answers, why you believe the story of Rosewood was allowed to disappear from public conversation for so long.
Well, one reason was that the white folks who were there were afraid that black folks want to come back and take their land. So they wanted to make sure as little as was known about that event as possible. And that was a realistic fear. When Rosewood happened in 1923, and this all-black town was burned to the ground, all the black folks left. They all left. And white people just moved into their homes, just paid the back taxes on their properties. So there was a lot of questions about, if you just left and your home was taken under these circumstances, do you have a right to have redress to get your property back? But in 1994, the state of Florida paid reparations to Rosewood descendants. Reparations to Rosewood descendants. First time ever, and the last time the state of Florida paid reparations for racial violence. So black folks have no right now. That was part of the deal with reparations. You can't go back and claim anything. Reparations takes care of that. But one reason was, the greed to get at these people. These people in Rosewood had fine furniture. They had better things than the white folks who live right next to them. So one reason was that. And the other, which is common, is that it was people's daddies and brothers and uncles and cousins out there doing all this government. So if you start talking and telling, you're exposing members of your own family. So just be quiet, don't say anything, and that kind of silence is what led to even more violence. Today, I'm the only black person who owns land in Rosewood. I own 5 acres of land in Rosewood, which I've had for about 15 years. But no other black people, I don't live there, I just have this pristine 5-acre site of land. But no black folks are there now, even now.
Atiba?
So, Dr. Dunn, knowing the history of the things that you've experienced, seen, and where we are today, what are some of the lessons that you are imparting to young people and some of the lessons you can impart to us in terms of what is going on today? I'll just kind of give you a backdrop. One of the things that Jesse and I have talked about is the term white supremacy. And one of the things that I've have in my own life is tried not to use the term specifically because I like to highlight the insecurity of white folks who have done these things to us. So when you mentioned, for instance, taking the land and doing certain things with property, that they did certain things like keeping us from being able to have guns, keeping us from being able to get any redress for them burning down our homes and doing such things, and that it's rooted in this idea to me of their fear and their insecurity of what it would be like for us to be on the same level. So with that all said, what are your thoughts in terms of what we can be doing today to re-educate and cause our younger people to remember and to know the past so that they're not thinking that their votes, for instance, don't count and how they feel that they can get and access power?
The reason that I have taken thousands of young people to Rosewood is to tell them, when we get there and we walk that ground, take your phones out, start videotaping, start recording, and send these messages to your friends back home who will never be able to come to Rosewood. I'll make that a mandatory part of participation. You have to share with your friends what you've learned, where you've gone. That makes it worth doing. And that's an advantage that young people have today that we didn't have. We didn't have internet. We weren't able to communicate with thousands of folks at will. There's no reason not to know. And when you do find out things that, goodness gracious, I wish other folks knew that, share it. Use social media to make this history go into the spaces of other people who may never get to experience the kinds of things directly that you do. The other thing I would say, because you're right, I'm so glad you mentioned some of these young heroes coming forward. We need more of them, but yes, I would advise our young people, though, be careful about your anger. All white people are not your enemy. Leaders of my era realized that. Jesse Jackson Sr. realized that. We need white people to help us. We need that kind of support to get to the places that we need to go. So as you talk about the pains and things we've suffered, which are very, very real, don't just blame everybody who's white. Make sure that you direct your anger, righteous anger, towards the right targets, like white supremacists. And they're easily enough these days to identify among us.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Dr. Dunn is our very special contributor, and we are very grateful for Atiba right here in our conversation on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward in just a moment.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson is cracking down on corporate accountability. He signed an executive order setting new ethical rules for companies doing business with the city.
If you want to do business with this city, we want to know whether the people leading your company reflect the diversity of the communities whose tax dollars are paying your contracts.
Officials say it's a response to conduct that hurts workers and civil rights. The defense takes over in the Tupac Shakur murder trial. Prosecutors rested their case yesterday in Las Vegas. Dwayne Davis is accused of ordering the rapper's killing 30 years ago. He denies it. And global consulting giant Deloitte is paying $21.5 million to settle discrimination claims from the Trump administration. The Justice Department says Deloitte's DEI programs favored one race or sex over another. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
There is more drama with the Lakers sale. Jeannie Buss, one of 6 children of former Lakers owner Jerry Buss, has filed a lawsuit against her 5 siblings to block the sale of the siblings' 17.8% ownership of the Lakers to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. Iger and Kushner have an agreement with Lakers owner Mark Walter to buy the team from Walter for $12.5 billion. 5 of Buss's children have agreed to sell their percentage to Iger and Kushner. Jeannie is holding out because she feels the Buss name should maintain some percentage of the Lakers with the new ownership group. The sale is not official until the NBA Board of Governors vote to give formal approval. The next owners meeting is in September in New York City. The Dodgers lost another one-run game in Atlanta Wednesday night, 6-5. The Braves got a 2-out pinch hit single in the bottom of the 9th to win it. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Oh no! Straight the roof down.
Oh, look at time.
Please, God, save us. Save our house. Please, God, please.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we haven't forgotten what happened Tuesday, January 7th, 2025.
The trauma, processing the loss of our home. How do we address the compounding effect of the fire now more than 18 months later? I noticed one of my 3 children engaged in self-harm, who hasn't been able to articulate the challenges that they've had since the fire. And 4 out of the 5 folks in our household are in therapy. 1 is not. And the one that's not is the one who I noticed with some marks on their person. This isn't okay. You need to talk to someone.
Black historical memory keeps alive the stories and struggles of everyday people and communities. Black historical memory preserves truths that others attempt to erase, minimize, or distort. Black historical memory prevents history from repeating its worst chapters. At KBLA Talk 1580, we will never forget. Tune into Conversation Live, Altadena Forward with James Farr, weekends on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at kbla1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays, and that puts us in this hour in conversation with Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He's brought a very, very special guest, Dr. Marvin Dunn, who has a story to tell that ought to be on MSNBC, CNN, and every radio station in this country about what happened to us around voting in 1920, particularly in Ocoee and in Rosewood. The consequences of it are simply extraordinary when we have this kind of confusion going into an American election process discussing multiple lists. With that said, let me bring forward Atiba for more questions.
Hey, so Dr. Dunn, can we go back to Rosewood? And I'm going to tell you the reason why. So I remember watching the movie Rosewood, and I'm assuming that you've probably heard this from a lot of people, but I want us to hear what some of the things that you recall perhaps that were not factual, and then some of the things that actually happened that, in my opinion, had it been told in the movie, may have been even better than the way that they told the story.
And you're quite right. That movie opens with a lie, a very dramatic lie. It opens with J.W. Wright, a white man who ran the general store, the only white man in Rosewood, raping this black child. That did not happen. J.W. Wright was the and his wife Mary Wright were the white heroes of Rosewood. They hid black people in their home during the massacre. Women and children, no boys over 13, in their upstairs bedroom. And this movie opens with Mr. Wright raping this child in the store. That just did not happen. I took Ruby Morton. Mrs. Morton was the last person who had a living memory of Rosewood. She was 8 years old, second grade, when Rosewood happened. And she and I watched that movie together twice. And she told me, well, it looks like Rosewood. And she said, and she complained about how they portrayed Mr. Wright, because she remembered him as a kind man. But she told me there was no person like this person, this black hero that they had. They made him up. So I'd say about half that movie is made up. But it does look like Rosewood. It does have some characters that were alive at the time. But I would not conclude what happened in Rosewood based upon watching that movie.
And the reason why I wanted to ask that question is because a few years ago, I was in Budapest, Hungary, and I'm walking and I run into Bob Wisdom, an actor who was on The Wire and has been in a number of other movies. And when we started talking, I started telling him about the work that I've been doing with party politics and working in politics. And he said, well, let me tell you about the politics of Hollywood. And so it makes me wonder, with that film, I don't know what the challenges were to make the film or what have you, but if there may have been some things that happened that they couldn't tell the story the way that you said with J.W. Wright, that they couldn't tell the story because what we continue to see, whether or not it's Hollywood or whether or not it's in the news, how our stories continue to be washed over
and told in a different light.
The Rosewood story, the Rosewood movie could not have had a white hero. That would have spoiled the whole thing. All the white folks had to be villains. And when I first bought land in Rosewood and started meeting my neighbors, again, all those folks out there are white. One of the things they kept telling me is, you historians didn't give credit to my ancestors who helped during the massacre, who hid black people. Why don't y'all tell about them? Just tell about those who did the bad things. That's a very real feeling among Rosewood whites even today. That we didn't tell the full story. But I don't know. I have had my issues with my neighbors in Rosewood. As a matter of fact, I and my son and 3 other black men were attacked by my white neighbor, who went. It's a long story, but it made national news. This man almost killed us on the road outside my property. I'd gone up to Rosewood to work out getting my property cleared for the event. And my neighbor, who's one of the richest men out there in Levy County, never spoke to me in 10 years, no eye to him, comes out in this big white F-350 truck with a Confederate flag metal tag up front. And he rolls his window down and asked me, "What's going on out here?" Never spoke to me before for all these years. And I said, "Well, sir, that's as far as I got." I said, "This is my property." He said, "If that's your property, why don't you all park on your side of the road?" I said, "This is we'll park wherever we wish to." Threw him into a rage. He started yelling, "Niggers in Rosewood, get the niggers out of Rosewood." Said to one of the white men who was with him, "You're a white nigger. You're worse than they are." Almost hits my son, ready to get out of the road. Let's see, we got him run over. And the white guy, one of the white guys with us, called the sheriff. They came out, and it took them 4 or 5 days, but they arrested this guy. One of the most powerful white men in Levy County, charged him with using his truck as a weapon, his vehicle as a weapon. But when I got back to Miami, I called the FBI and reported this as a hate crime. This man was arrested, charged with 6 counts of hate crime, facing 10 years on each count, was tried in Alachua County, near Gainesville, by an all-white jury, all male, and was found guilty on all 6 counts, and was sent to prison, federal prison, for 1 year and a day. He just got out. So justice, America does work sometimes. And this was an example of that.
And I really like Atiba, how he distinguished between his cordiality, how he was willing to work with his neighbor who hadn't spoken with him in 10 years. But then he recognized that the overall environment still had this idea of white supremacy in it, the N-word being cast around, almost hitting his son with an F-350 truck. Why are you all his side of a county road? There's no such thing as that. And so it's not about him, the neighbor, even though his behavior is awkward, it's wrong, it's inconsistent, but it is about the environment. Listen, it's not just in Florida. This is also in Texas. This is also in Alabama.
Right.
We're still trying to figure out what happened on Horn Island. We're still trying. So white supremacy is real.
Mm-hmm.
The movement of white supremacy and identifying it as that and calling it as that, I mean, that's fair game.
And you know why it's even worse right now? Because of the fear about immigration, that this country is turning brown. All these black and brown folks are coming in, and a lot of white people, white males in particular, feel they're losing America, losing white America. And that's rallying a lot of young white men, especially, around this idea of keep them out. Keep out brown and black people so that we don't lose America as a white state. So this is a particular time when that kind of feeling has broad appeal to at least some white people in the country today. And it's dangerous, very dangerous.
Yes, sir. I mean, and it keeps going back to, again, the identifying as their fear. When I think about, for instance, has happened in college sports with NIL, the image, and players being able to make money off of their images. I was watching something today with Jalen Rose talking about from the Fab Five about how here he was, a college student 30 some years ago, and there were people, including Nike, who were making money off of their image. For me, that was always slavery, because here you have these students and they're telling them, well, we're paying your scholarship, you get free food and board, but really you're making money, millions of dollars off of us, which to me was no different than what slavery is. But then you also had these other players who didn't look like us, who are trying to compete for those same scholarships and finding that they don't add up. They don't, and so, the part of this that I guess that I look at is recognizing that there have been laws, there have been things that have been put in place to suppress us, to keep us down. But that idea of this idea of supremacy is still based on their fear and their insecurity of not being able to compete on a level playing field.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more conversation with Atiba. Dr. Dunn is our very special guest and an enlightening conversation. Atiba, we'll pick right back up where we left off when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Asata Umoja. I'm with the Hyde Park Organizational Partnership for Empowerment, which is at the southern end of Crenshaw. And this community has been greatly impacted. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we're most concerned about is just being totally neglected. And what I mean is being excluded from the process. When this project first started, they should have made sure that our organization, since we were most impacted, was in there. So we've been excluded, and we've seen commercial properties be taken for art projects. And we're very concerned about these are spaces that could help build economic growth and development in the community. And what this community needs more of is economic development, not art. I mean, I like art. It's a good thing. But they're putting the cart before the horse, because without a solid economic foundation, what they are calling cultural tourism absolutely has no significance and no meaning. And this community is going under if we don't stop and do something to help build that economic foundation and support the businesses that are the tax base for this community to build the kind of services that we need. And the response from our leadership is totally inadequate.
Holding them accountable. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction. Self-destruction. Yeah, it was self-destruction.
Hi, I'm Chris Holden, former California Assembly member, former mayor of Pasadena, and CEO of LA Fire Justice. I've spent my career fighting for our communities. When I saw Edison celebrating $4.5 billion in profits while Eaton Fire survivors struggled to make ends meet, it made me simultaneously sick and furious. Families and individuals are dealing with financial pressure, insurance delays, costly remediation, and the painful question of how to rebuild their lives, while the utility that caused the fire is paying its executives millions and is more profitable than ever. That's not justice. That's a disgrace. Join the lawsuit with LA Fire Justice to hold Edison accountable. We're here to help you, your family, and our community recover. Visit lafirejustice.com today to learn more about your eligibility and how to start.
Advertisement. Douglas Boxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live. Altadena Forward with James Farr.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive of direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit Genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor, and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
We're in thought-provoking Thursday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show right here at KBLA Talk 1580. Conversation with Atiba is ongoing. Dr. Dunn is our very special guest. Dr. Marvin Dunn is a historian, educator, and author, a filmmaker, and professor emeritus of psychology at Florida International University. Atiba, why don't we pick right back up where we left off?
Yes, so Dr. Dunn, we were talking about a number of things as it relates to Ocoee and Rosewood. You're a professor emeritus at Florida International University. What are some of the things that you've seen and some of the things that you believe now that you have hope in this next generation of young students?
Oh, that's a great question. My hope comes from taking young people on these tours around Florida to where some of these terrible things happen. And these are 2-day tours. We pay all the expenses for these kids to go with us. But to go to the grave of a 50-year-old boy in Live Oak, Florida, Willie James Howard, who was lynched for writing a letter to a white girl. And we stand around that boy's grave and we touch hands and we sing and we pray. Now, these are white, black, Hispanic kids. The response is all the same. What a terrible thing. What a sad thing to have happened. And there's this sharing of the grief without respect to race. And I see kids relating that way under these circumstances, and it gives me hope. I get it from young people. I also still have some hope for the courts. I have not given up on the courts to come through and help to deliver us from this evil time that I think we're living in right now. But I just go back for a second, though, to the white supremacy point we were making a little earlier.
Yes.
If I might. Let me put on my psychologist hat, because I was trained as a psychologist. I just sort of moved into history. But there have been a few white men who have been lynched in Florida. I've seen photographs of them. A few. I've never seen or heard of a white man who was lynched, who was castrated. That was reserved for white men, for black men and boys. Why is it that some of these white guys who were hung for the same terrible things, but no one of them was ever, that I know is castrated. It speaks to the sexual nature of a lot of the white hatred that we hear coming from this white supremacist group, particularly men. And there's a reason why there might be this sexual jealousy among some white men about black men. When they brought us over on the slave ships, they didn't bring the weakest among us. They brought the strongest, the most powerful among us. And white men saw this. They're beasts. We got to be protected from these things. And most important, we got to protect our women from them. Now comes this sexual competition, keep white women, and it gets sicker and sicker from there. So never forget that there, in my view, is almost always a level of sexual perversion in anti-black violence. And it's even more pronounced now that we have this fear among some white men that they're losing their country to brown and black people.
You know, that is an angle that only a psychologist could bring to the conversation. And just the other day, we were having a conversation with a couple of sisters who have medical degrees, etc. They are increasingly making progress in politics, while at the same time, we find that black men find themselves not only ostracized, but if you will, Dr. Dunn, politically castrated. It may not be the actual lynching, but you can be lynched in America politically, and you can be castrated in America politically.
So why, when you think about it, why is it then that it has been black women who have been the ones that have moved us forward? If black women, not that they were not necessarily the ones identified as leaders, but when you get down to who did the work, the actual work of moving us forward as a race, it was black women who carried the load, and it still is.
Mm-hmm.
It still is. And one of the reasons for that might be, if you look historically at the more endangered black males in our society. So I can sort of parse out why black women may have had more space to be aggressive about voting, and black men had more reason to not be the ones out front.
Dr. Dunn, what can our listeners do to stay in touch with you? How can they reach you? Are you on social media, sir?
Yes, I am. Facebook and on Instagram and on, well, I'm not going to TikTok yet, but and on X. Dr. Marvin Dunn.
Dr. Marvin Dunn? Mm-hmm.
Yes, at Dr. Marvin Dunn 4, I think it is, on Facebook, at Dr. Marvin Dunn.
Dr. Marvin Dunn on Facebook. Atiba,
yes.
Any final thoughts?
Oftentimes, Dr. Dunn, Jesse likes our guests to take us out with a word of hope. Would you mind doing that for us today?
Not at all. Not at all. I have been alive for almost 9 decades. My life spans a lot of history in this country and in this state. And through all of that, even being a child of Jim Crow myself, I still have a sense that this is a great country. I don't want to live anyplace else. I want to be right here in my country that my people, my ancestors helped to build up. So keep your connection to your country. As angry as you may be about things that have happened or happening, this is your country too, damn it. Don't give up on America. It doesn't own to Trump, doesn't belong to Trump in the right wing. It's ours too. Identify with your country. It's the best place in the world to live, imperfect as it is.
I don't think truer words could have ever been spoken. This is a Navy veteran, psychologist, historian, an educator, an author, and a filmmaker. Dr. Marvin Dunn has been our very special guest in this hour. He left you ways in which you can reach him on his social media platforms. And of course, we're always grateful for our conversation with Atiba. Atiba, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse. And remember, vote numbers too large to manipulate the outcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dunn. Looking forward to your return to the show at some point in time in the not too distant future.
I would be happy to.
Looking forward to it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, I'm going to opine for just a moment on this Target controversy. The minstrel show has begun at Target. I have an opinion on that. More on KBLA Talk 1580. And when we come forward, we'll be with Dr. Johnny Mack in the World House.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson is cracking down on corporate accountability. He signed an executive order setting new ethical rules for companies doing business with the city.
If you want to do business with this city, we want to know whether the people leading your company reflect the diversity of the communities whose tax dollars are paying your contracts.
Officials say it's a response to conduct that hurts workers and civil rights. The defense takes over in the Tupac Shakur murder trial. Prosecutors rested their case yesterday in Las Vegas. Dwayne Davis is accused of ordering the rapper's killing 30 years ago. He denies it. And global consulting giant Deloitte is paying $21.5 million to settle discrimination claims from the Trump administration. The Justice Department says Deloitte's DEI programs favored one race or sex over another. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
There is more drama with the Lakers sale. Jeannie Buss, one of 6 children of former Lakers owner Jerry Buss, has filed a lawsuit against her 5 siblings to block the sale of the siblings' 17.8% ownership of the Lakers to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. Iger and Kushner have an agreement with Lakers owner Mark Walter to buy the team from Walter for $12.5 billion. 5 of Buss's children have agreed to sell their percentage to Iger and Kushner. Jeannie is holding out because she feels the Buss name should maintain some percentage of the Lakers with the new ownership group. The sale is not official until the NBA Board of Governors vote to give formal approval. The next owners meeting is in September in New York City. The Dodgers lost another one-run game in Atlanta Wednesday night, 6-5. The Braves got a 2-out pinch hit single in the bottom of the 9th to win it. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This editorial is targeted Who Was in the Room? That's the title. I want to talk to you today about a costume. Last week, Target put on its shelves a children's Halloween costume, an outfit that they called it The Kid Glows Under Black Light Circus Clown. Orange and black, gloves, a top hat, and a grinning mask with an oversized mouth crowded with enormous teeth. If you've ever seen a 19th century minstrel playbill, you did not need anybody to explain that costume to you. Gloves, the hat, the mouth, that is the clown. That is what was known as the Zip Coon. That is Jim Crow. The character that came before Jim Crow was the name of a legal regime. That grinning mask is the oldest mass-produced lie in American commerce. The lie that black suffering is entertainment, that black features are a punchline, that a black face is the funniest when it's exaggerated into something less than human. And here's the part that should keep you up tonight. The promotional photograph on Target's own website showed a black child wearing it. Target apologized. The company says the costume was offensive and should never have been part of its assortment. It says it's looking closely at how this happened. I want to accept the apology, but I just can't accept it at face value. But I have a question, and it's the only question that matters. Who was in the room? Because a costume does not appear on a shelf in 1,900 stores by accident. Somebody sketched it, Somebody sourced it. Somebody costed it. Somebody wrote the production description. Somebody booked a photographer, hired a child model, styled that child, lit that child, and photographed that child. Somebody uploaded it. Somebody approved the buy. Somebody put it in a planogram and shipped it to distribution centers across the country. That is not one mistake. That is a chain of custody. And of every single link chain in that store, a person looked at Jim Crow's face and said, ship it. That's the whole editorial right there. And I want you to understand it's not a rhetorical question. It's a documented answer. In January of 2025, Target ended its 3-year diversity program. It shut down the initiative built especially and specifically to bring Black products from Black-owned and minority-owned businesses onto the shelves. It stopped reporting to outside civil rights organizations, and it replaced all of it with the word belonging. Now, remember where this company sits. Target is headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Target itself said Floyd's murder was a catalyst for those commitments. They stood in the ashes of their own city and pledged $2 billion to Black-owned businesses by 2025. They convened a committee. They accepted awards. They took the photographs. And then within weeks of a new administration taking office, they folded the tent. Understand what that decision actually did. It was not a press release. It was a personal decision. It removed people from rooms. It removed the buyer who would have flinched. It removed the marketing manager who would have said, wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute. What's this all about? It removed the vendor who would have never designed this in the first place. Diversity was never a slogan on a wall. It was a person in a chair with the standing to say, no, this doesn't work. You take that person out of the room, and 8 months later, Jim Crow is on the shelf next to fun-sized candy bars. Reverend Jamal Bryant led a 40-day fast on that store. Organizers in Minneapolis, Nakima Levy-Armstrong among them, have said from the beginning the boycott was indefinite and that it has never ended. Billions in market value evaporated. But here's what corporate America learned, and I want you to hear this plainly. Target's stock hit 52-week high last week, up roughly 63% this year. The lesson they took from the boycott was not change. The lesson they took was wait. So no, pulling the costume is not enough. An apology that names no one and costs nothing is not accountability. It's an inventory management. Target, here is what accountability looks like. Publish the chain. Tell us how many hands touched this and what happened to them. Restore the supplier program you killed. Put the money back and put the people back in the room who would have stopped this before it ever became a photograph of a Black child in a minstrel mask. America keeps opening this parenthesis and refusing to close it. Every generation, the same character comes back wearing a new label. This year it wears a circus clown. We are not confused about what we saw, and we're not going anywhere. And we're definitely, Target, not going away. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Thank you for listening to the editorial. Johnny Mack is our very special and regular contributor in this space. Dr. Mack is our progenitor of the leadership and the work of Martin Luther King Jr. right here at Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. He is one of the foremost authorities on the man and his work and has studied harder and more extensively and advised more modern civil rights leaders than just about anyone I know. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Good to be here.
Dr. Mack, we take 2 steps forward and then we take another couple of steps back to Jim Crow. Your initial thoughts before we come forward.
It seems like it, Jesse. Greatly appreciate the editorial. Well stated, well read. There's much to talk about there. There's much to talk about those, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Actually, Jesse, and the question is why? Why does society feel that now is the time to take those steps back and that they can actually get away with it, whoever they are? It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Dr. Mack. Should there be consequences? I mean, we're on for 40 days with Jamal Bryant, then we're off. And then as soon as we take our foot off the brake, as soon as we take, if you will, our proverbial knee off of Target's neck,
yeah,
then Chauvin shows back up.
Well, you know, Jesse, I learned a long time ago that people treat you the way you let them treat you, whether that's individually or collectively. And I think the point that you just made speaks to that idea that we have to decide when enough is enough, and how are we going to allow people to treat us? Remember, they treat you the way you let them.
I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, Annie Lou Hamer. I'm sick and tired of having the same conversation too, Johnny. If it's not Target today, it's someone else. They didn't just eliminate diversity, equity, inclusion. They eliminated corporate sensitivity to a significant market share of their customers. And they've opened it up to people who are insensitive, and that's a real problem. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Johnny Mack.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's good, KBLA delegation? I am Miles Lowe, and I'm excited to be joining the weekend lineup right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me every Saturday at 12 noon for the Do Better Show, where we get into the world of tech, AI, the creator economy, navigating your mental health through it all, and have conversations with founders to find out how real people are making real money right now. It's not a course, not a subscription. Class is in session every weekend, live on the air. If you knew better, you do better, right? So let's make a better you. The Do Better Show, every Saturday, 12 noon, and replaying again at 7 p.m. right here on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk.
Brothers and sisters! There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Khalifa Bey. I am the founder of the South LA Bureau of Tourism and Trade. And how this is impacting me is that I can't promote it. I won't promote it. I hear a lot of talk about everybody. Accountability is responsibility. Change your vote. Change the vote. I know there's a lot of Democrats in this room, and I get all that. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, it ain't going to happen. And it's not about Democrat, Republican. It's about getting what we need to get done. That's what it is for me. Because this is deliberate. This of our communities. You look at Chicago. You look at all the black communities were built by us. We're in the same condition. So to me, it's by design. And if we don't do something to change the vote to get to what we need, stop having these meetings.
Making sure they stick to the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Dr. Johnny Mack is a social entrepreneur, a scholar practitioner with expertise in subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change movements. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. civil rights community. Dr. Mack, given all that's taking place right now, including Target, Dr. King famously spoke about the World House, the idea that we must learn to live together in peace or perish together as fools. Given today's global and national tensions, how close or how far are we from realizing the World House vision?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I was reminded yesterday in a conversation, Jesse, that Dr. King wasn't necessarily suggesting that we needed to build the World House, this person argued. He reminded me that King saw the world as a great big house. And so the question is, if we're not building the house, then what is it that he's calling us to? What is the vision? And the answer to that question is how we live with each other in this house and how we furnish the house, right? Who enjoys the accoutrements in the house? Who gets to sleep in the master bedroom, and so on and so forth. We can continue the metaphor. But so what does the house look like today? I think we've recognized throughout our conversations over the many months that we've been doing this, Jesse, that every week we seem to be taking another step backwards. We're losing ground. The house that we spent, and those who came before us spent such precious and careful time furnishing and improving, is now in horrible disrepair. And I think, Jesse, that's exactly how King would view it. And he would wonder what in the world has happened that we've lost so much, that we've allowed the house to be now arguably in shambles.
Johnny, I could open up the front door of my house right now, and sitting there is a welcome mat. Welcome. I've got another door that says, "All who enter, please bring some wine." But there's a welcome mat at my front door. I doubt it very seriously if there is a radio station anywhere in this country or a radio show in this country where two white men are sitting down having a conversation, talking about overtures or reaching out to the Black community. They might be discussing what Trump's doing or how they're benefiting from Trump or what they don't like, or Trump may be going too far. But the very overtures that we have been conditioned to make, largely because of our Christology, our study of Jesus, and largely because of our study of really the disciple of nonviolence in the United States, Martin Luther King Jr. He brought this idea to us forcefully from Howard Thurman, this inward journey. And we engage in this regular reflection every single day. But Johnny, I could turn my radio dial and not get very far from where we are at KBLA Talk 1580 on the AM dial. and there's going to be a white conversation, and ain't nobody reaching out over there for none of us about nothing we think about what's going on. Johnny, that's not a world house. That's different bandwidths. We're talking past each other, Johnny.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, I would argue that is the state of the world house. It's still the house, but it seems like we're living on different floors in the house. We're living in different rooms. You know, again, however we want to extend the metaphor, or to use your own, you've got a welcome mat, at the door of your house, and it seems as though they're pushing us out of the house, standing on that mat, wondering if in fact we are welcomed. And again, I think that's the point that I was just making. We've lost ground. But Jesse, I also made the point that people treat you the way you let them treat you. And I don't think that we should rush past that. What must we do? What are the things we must do differently? You mentioned Reverend Jamal and his leading a march against, or a protest against, Target. And that protest seems to have ended. And so has Target's consciousness or conscience about how it treats its
customers.
Yeah. And so, frankly, I'll admit it. I haven't shopped at that store from the very beginning of that march since, and I don't know that I ever will. But at what point do we decide that enough is enough? That we're simply not going to spend our money in places where we are not welcomed.
Johnny, you define nonviolence as nonviolent resistance. Nonviolence resistance isn't just, I'm thinking in this moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't just, I'm not going to Target, but I'm also encouraging other people not to go, meaning I'm taking the opportunity to educate people about Target's behavior. It's not just my single act of withdrawal of economic enthusiasm from the company. It's nonviolent resistance, meaning I'm going to go out of my way and organize an activity to keep people and bring them consciousness about what Target has done and is doing. And Target is the target, but there are many other targets without the name Target that are out here, that it's not just enough for me to turn my back on nonviolently. There is a resistance that requires an affirmative act on my part.
Yes, and in fact, Jesse, it's not just resistance; it's protest as well. It's also non-cooperation. Why would I cooperate with my own demise? Why would I cooperate with my own the injustice that is imposed upon me? Why would we cooperate with that? And so, I think perhaps your point is, we should fully understand that we have to understand what violence really is and what nonviolence really is, and how we use those two value systems to create the kind of world we want, the kind of life that we live. And too much of the fundamental values that drive our economic policies and practices are based upon fundamental violent principles that deny our human dignity and worth, Jesse. We just, in the same way that the Constitution didn't fully recognize the full humanity of African Americans, so it seems, in our marketing and our retail sales policies throughout corporate America. There's something terribly wrong with that, and we must do more than merely resist. We must create our own institutions and organizations. If you won't treat me fairly, if you won't do right by me in your store, ought I not be establishing my own?
I really respect that. I really respect that angle. Starting a small mom and pop store against the backdrop of a Target and a Lowe's and a Walmart, where the scales of these large malls have now sucked up all of the grocery stores, because small business really can't compete, particularly in urban areas, with these big box stores.
That's right.
But these big box stores, to your other point, are and to my editorial's point, are all down the supply chain. It's not just cash registers. By the way, they're replacing us with automated machines where we slide a bar across how we pay for our products at these stores. It's not just cash registers. It's shelving. It's trucking. It's moving products to market. It's taking the photography or advertising every single product on every single shelf as a complete institution for the most part behind it that brings it to the market. And I remember when I was growing up, maybe I was 6, 7 years old. Martin Luther King Jr. had only been deceased for about 4 years. But I remember the A&P boycotts that we used to lead in Chicago, and some of the withdrawal of enthusiasm campaigns around the country to get Black products on shelves, including Afro Sheen and Joe Louis milk and other Glory collard greens. To have Black folks' products on a shelf didn't just happen. It was a protest that led to their recognition that we had products that our community wanted to buy, and they wanted to buy them conveniently in those stores. That's part of the movement too, isn't it, Johnny?
It is part of the movement. But Jesse, let's keep in mind something. We're getting to the point where going to the market is really a 20th century experience. It won't be long before we won't need that market. We won't need even the big box store.
You telling me my stuff's about to be delivered to me at my front door by a little robot?
I think that's right, Jesse. I think your welcome mat is going to have a robot on it. Not gonna
a battery charging station on my roof.
So what do we do about that?
I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. These robots aren't coming to the ghetto, man. They're not landing no drones in the Black community unless there's surveillance. It ain't happening.
And Jesse, that's not tongue in cheek. That's
dead serious.
Yeah,
the Negro is going to keep going to grocery shopping because it ain't happening. They're not going to drop this on your roof or in your yard for you to pick it up, and then you call in later and say you didn't get it. It's not going to happen. I mean, I know white folks.
Well, Jesse, more than that, you got to have money to buy, right? I don't know.
We got to sue them. We're going to have to sue them to even have our parcels dropped off from a drone. It's going to have to happen. They're going to discriminate on where those little carts deliver groceries and fast food once they find a way around Uber Eats and eBay. That's going to happen just as sure as I'm sitting here because, Johnny, let me be candid with you. Part of our social justice analysis, if it doesn't take into account capitalism itself and the desensitization that comes with capitalism itself. I was at a store a few years ago, and initially I didn't feel welcome in the store. I mean, I got an instinct, right? I didn't feel welcome. And I bought a bunch of this product that I particularly needed for a project in this store. And they figured out it was me that was coming into the store, right? And other customers had heard that I'd come into the store, bought the things that I wanted. And then they said, the owner said, well, how do you feel about him coming in to buy this right here from you, to buy car tires or whatever? The guy's response was, I'm a capitalist. I don't care that he came into my store. I'm a capitalist. In other words, he doesn't care about our human rights or value if we are coming in there to do business. This is not a social interaction proposition. And that's kind of where I am, Johnny. I see why Dr. King arrives at a system that produces beggars. That's system
right.
that produces these attitudes and these behaviors, not just the one-offs. Somebody had a bad day and called me the N-word, which can be a bad day every day for that person who calls me the N-word, especially if I feel like putting my foot in their mouth. But that's not the point. The point is the system itself generates it, and it generates it over and over and over again. Johnny, we got about 30 seconds.
Well, I can't do it in 30, but let me just quickly try. Jesse, that system is rapidly changing. The very system that King talked about, in the mid 60s, we wouldn't recognize in another few years. What does that system look like moving forward? And how do we respond to that?
That's our question coming forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Dr. Johnny Mack in the World House when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is celebrating a new affordable housing project on the South Side. Mayor Brandon Johnson cut the ribbon yesterday at the Charles Earl School Apartments.
This development will serve individuals and families who are at risk of homelessness and offer wraparound services to ensure residents can plant roots for themselves and their families for years to come.
The retrofitted historic school now offers 50 affordable, supportive homes. A federal appeals court won't toss the assault case against Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. It's tied to a scuffle at an ICE facility last May. McIver and Newark's Mayor Ross Baraka were touring the site when agents moved to detain him. Prosecutors say McIver assaulted an agent in the chaos. Judges ruled touring was her job, interfering wasn't. Monica disagrees. She could face 17 years if convicted. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Number 14. That's where Talkers Magazine ranked Tavis Smiley on their heavy 100 list of the 100 most important talk radio hosts in America. Join Tavis weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon or 9 p.m. to midnight, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. The midterm election campaign season is here now. The 2028 presidential election is right around the corner. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. It's all in for 2026 and 2028. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh no! Tear the roof down!
I don't know if we have time.
Please, God, save us. Save our house. Please, God, please.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we haven't forgotten what happened Tuesday, January 7th, 2025.
The trauma, processing the loss of our home. How do we address the compounding effect of the fire now more than 18 months later? I noticed one of my 3 children engaged in self-harm who hasn't been able to articulate the challenges that they've had since the fire. And 4 out of the 5 folks in our household are in therapy. 1 is not. And the one that's not is the one who I noticed with some marks on their person. This isn't okay. You need to talk to someone.
Black historical memory keeps alive the stories and struggles of everyday people and communities. Black historical memory preserves truths that others attempt to erase, minimize, or distort. Black historical memory prevents history from repeating its worst chapters. At KBLA Talk 1580, we will never forget. Tune into Conversation Live, Altadena Forward with James Farr, weekends on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley.
Culture in my lifetime has been as impactful, if not more impactful, than politics or law or any other pursuit or business. I like to say culture is undefeated.
Culture is undefeated. That's what Council President Marquise Harris Dawson says. And you know what? He's right. Culture is undefeated. But here's the problem. You don't get to celebrate the culture while ignoring the people who created it. And that's where this procrastination Crenshaw conversation gets real. As you know, the community sent a formal letter to Harris Dawson. We're still waiting for an official response from the city. The deadline is Friday, September 4th. But in the interim, Harris Dawson penned an open letter to the community. Okay, that's fine, but responding is not the same as answering. That said, let's not confuse fixing the parking, repairing the streetlights, and repaving streets and sidewalks with finishing Destination Crenshaw. The community was promised a transformational project. So, where is it? When is this thing going to be finished? The council president says the project is being delivered on a timeline. What timeline? That's not an unreasonable question. And that's not an attack. It's not division. That is accountability. And then there's the business interruption money. So in his letter, Harris Dawson says that more than $1 million went to Doolin's on Crenshaw, and additional assistance went to a few other individuals. Oh, really? Who received the money? How much money? And who didn't? I can assure you a whole lot of folk didn't get that money. How do I know? I'm getting the phone calls. You see, transparency should not scare anybody. That's how accountability works. And that's why in our letter, we ask for an audit. But instead, what do we get? A discussion about Tavis Smiley, the pastor, the parishioners, the business owners, the people asking the questions, their motives, their ambitions, their character. Well, let me tell you something. When you can't answer the questions, attacking, insulting, and gaslighting the persons asking the questions doesn't make the questions disappear. It just makes people ask why you won't answer it. Let me be clear. We don't want to fight with the council president. We want the project finished because the people of Crenshaw are not on the sidelines, Mr. President. They are Crenshaw. And if culture really is undefeated, then respect the culture, respect the people, respect the businesses, and most importantly, respect the questions. Now, answer them. The Crenshaw Corridor community is still waiting, and September 4th is fast approaching. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Just talking louder and say nothing and say nothing.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the World House with Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack's research includes extensive study of Dr. King's work. Dr. King's Peaceable Power, this framework that Johnny articulates, is about peaceable power as direct, structural, and cultural nonviolence with correlating strategic, conscientious, and cultural action correlates. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, Jesse.
Johnny, just before the break, I only gave you 30 seconds to respond, but please take your time.
So we're living in the middle of a significant change, Jesse. And, Bill Gates, you may have seen his his essay, his almost 6,000 word essay. Now, when one of the richest men in America and maybe the world suggests that we're in serious trouble, you know, the old saying, when a certain group catches a cold, other groups catch pneumonia or worse. And anytime you hear Bill Gates saying, we're in for deep doo-doo, deep trouble with AI, imagine what that's going to do to those of us who are struggling just to catch up with, in many cases, the Industrial Revolution itself. And so when we talk about restructuring the social edifice, we can't be looking at an edifice in the mid-20th century. Jesse, we've got to prepare for what is to come in this century. And as Gates indicated, it's coming faster than they can keep up with it. What then can we expect? How then, you know, how do you protest an algorithm, Jesse? How do you resist an algorithm? How do you not cooperate with an AI system that has full access to all information that ever was and maybe even ever will be? How are we preparing ourselves for that kind of world? Jesse, that's the kind of conversation we need to be having, not only with ourselves, you and I, in this setting, but our people throughout this nation and around the globe. As King said, difficult days ahead. He could not have imagined, or maybe he did, that these days are those days of which he spoke.
All you've shared with me is that capitalism is on automatic now, that it's completely automated, that it can trade stocks, it can trade people, it can fight for greater efficiencies in the workplace. It needs fewer and fewer people. You can wake up every day and have a conversation with AI or with Claude or with Chat GPT or whatever it's called, and never speak to the people living with you in your own home because you're having a constant conversation with them. They're answering all of your questions. And so there is a breakdown in the social fabric. And I'd even argue that there's even a breakdown in the Constitution, which I've always believed was a flexible document, but it was most definitely written for people. Now, that's a lot to say, right? Because we were 3/5 of a human in the document, because women were excluded, and all of these categories of people who were not American without citizenship until the 14th Amendment. Hey, I get it. But now that there is a dividing line between what we did not have then and what we do have now, a constitution that was clearly written to address human beings and human circumstances is now almost outdated because the Constitution cannot offer a remedy to that which ails us as fast as artificial intelligence and the economy is moving away from any kind of regulation that benefits the people themselves. Johnny, the World House is in a lot of trouble.
It's in a lot of trouble, Jesse. And again, we have to take the time to think through how we are going to respond to it. It's one thing to describe what the problem is. It's another thing to have the discipline, the focus, and to take the time to develop the strategies that respond to it for our benefit. And I'm afraid we're not doing enough of that. Again, resisting, protesting, non-cooperating is important. That prepares the situation for change. But it in itself, Jesse, is not the change. And so we have to come together as a people and work toward the solutions that are going to ensure that we have full participation in whatever is to come in a way that benefits us as others are benefited. The challenges are huge, Jesse.
At this moment, something very unique is happening tomorrow, Dr. Mack, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about the significance of the March on Washington, August 28th, tomorrow. Share with us your thoughts about that and the leadership that Martin III as well as Reverend Sharpton are providing at this hour?
Well, of course, it is a commemoration of and a recognition of the famous 1963 march. And that marching, of course, is important. And I'll be there. I'm sure you'll be there to call the nation's attention to what we are confronted with today. And you'll hear many, many speeches from across the nation, many, many statements about the challenges that we face, but also, Jesse, the opportunities that we face. And if we can't be there in person, we must be there in spirit. But the march tomorrow is only a moment in time, and it's an important moment in time. But we must carry forward, and this is the message, Jesse. We must carry forward the clarion call that we'll hear tomorrow on what we must do to continue in our struggle for full participation, full recognition of our dignity and worth and participation in this great experiment. That's what the march is about tomorrow.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to talk about the March on Washington when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. right here on KBLA. More when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Bronwyn, and I've been in this neighborhood for 65 years.
All righty.
I was raised here, right on Crenshaw Boulevard. Ancestry, legacy, everything. No parking. In regards to our elderly, in regards to trying to get from one end to the other, 48th and 50th Street is a dead zone. You got to get off the bus and you got to make your way down in the middle of the block. I'm right across the street. I understand one of the things. I am happy to see you guys. I've been in too many meetings where you weren't there. I understand those who own the buildings and your properties. I understand those who rent from you. Here it is. Why can't we invest in each other?
Making sure they follow through. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Chris Holden, former California Assembly member, former mayor of Pasadena, and CEO of LA Fire Justice. I've spent my career fighting for our communities. When I saw Edison celebrating $4.5 billion in profits while Eaton fire survivors struggle to make ends meet, it made me simultaneously sick and furious. Families and individuals are dealing with financial pressure, insurance delays, costly remediation, and the painful question of how to rebuild their lives, while the utility that caused the fire is paying its executives millions and is more profitable than ever. That's not justice. That's a disgrace. Join the lawsuit with LA Fire Justice to hold Edison accountable. We're here to help you, your family, and our community recover. Visit lafirejustice.com today to learn more about your eligibility and how to start.
Advertisement. Douglas Boxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live. Altadena Forward with James Farr.
At the Y, strength means something different. It means people of all ages being together. It means you can be swishing the game-winning shot, learning to plie in first position, jabbing, crossing, and hooking a punching bag, canoeing in the lake, summer camp, donating food for your neighbors, watching your son learn about water safety in the pool. 175 years later, there's still no place like this place. Get involved at your Y. Learn more at ymca.org.
The way I do laundry hasn't really changed until now. Have you seen the new Tide Evo? It may look different, but now I get it. It's a super concentrated laundry detergent towel from Tide, packed with 6 layers of cleaning power. You just toss it in the washer and it dissolves instantly in water. It's built differently to fight tough stains. I love it because Tide Evo comes in a lightweight cardboard box. There's no bulky plastic bottle taking up space. It's perfect for me because I have no space for anything, especially with having twins. It's double the mess and double the load every time. And the biggest perk, it makes getting a Tide clean feel so easy. Try the new Tide Evo super concentrated laundry detergent today.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are in the World House with Johnny Mack. Johnny, before we go forward with our continuing conversation about the March on Washington tomorrow on August 28th at the Lincoln Memorial, Johnny, how can our listeners follow you and be supportive of your work?
They can find us at the World House Project. That's our website, theworldhouseproject.org. And visiting that website, learn about all of our programming, not only in the United States, but around the globe and our global network. They can join that global network. That would be wonderful support. Our listeners can also make a tax-deductible contribution on our website, Jesse. Thank you for asking.
Johnny, I appreciate you very much. Johnny, your work is a direct extension of what Dr. King was focusing on at the hour of his death. August 28th is a special day in your scholarship, in your life, in your thinking, in your theology, and in your philosophy. Again, Johnny, the significance of tomorrow and what we can expect going into November and beyond. What are you listening for tomorrow, Johnny?
Well, Jesse, more than what is said, it's who is saying it, who is there. How are we organizing as a people? We're going to see labor. We're going to see civil rights organizations. We're going to see education. We'll see business leaders as well. We should look for the cross-section of this nation represented in this important march, the 63rd anniversary of the March on Washington. After 63 years, that March for Justice and Jobs, here we are, 63 years later. So yes, I'm grateful for Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King III, and others who have organized the march. We're going to hear about how important November is, of course, and we've been talking about that, particularly Atiba and yourself, on how important the vote is. But we'll hear not only about the vote in this upcoming election, but the vote for 2028 as well. There's much preparation that starts now, not waiting until November of 2028. there's preparation that we must do now to prepare for the changing of the political guard, which we hope to see, of course, Jesse, in these midterm elections and, of course, in the presidential election in 2028. So I'll be listening for messaging on how we can respond, how we can prepare ourselves, how we can organize and mobilize ourselves in response to the challenges that we face.
You know, I was listening very carefully in the last hour to Dr. Marvin Dunn about the 1920 Okosi and Rosewood massacre that occurred over voting, over confusions of voting. And now we've got a Supreme Court ruling that doesn't answer clear questions, according to Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And there are people who very well could end up going to the polls and being told that they are not eligible to vote, even though they have been voting for years, or they're newly registered for whatever reason. Their names don't show up on some kind of list
Not on the list.
Department of Justice that is sending to states to determine who can and cannot vote. And all it takes is a small band of terrorists, if you will, at any one polling location in the United States where such a denial is taking place to have a repeat of a 1920 event, the Rosewood event over voting. I am, I'm struck at this hour by the sense of hope that you maintain in spite of it all, and Martin Luther King III and Reverend Al Sharpton's efforts to give us a very narrow focus. And of course, our own contributors, Barbara Arnwine and Atiba, who have suggested we must simply overwhelm the polls this year so that there is no doubt. We must win elections by tens of thousands of votes, not close votes. They must be out of reach. Johnny, we have about 4 minutes before we come forward. Take your time. Give us a word of hope. This is our last hope before August 28th, March on Washington.
Well, before talking about that hope, if I can also say, Jesse, to what you've just said about voting in numbers, we have to be sure that we stand vigilant even after we've voted, to insist that our votes are counted. So our work is not done when we walk out of that booth. Our work continues to hold the election commissions around the country, that election process, hold it accountable to ensure that our votes are counted and justice is served in our voting process. Now, the hope itself, that we are still gathering, still have the opportunity, Jesse, to gather. It's not easy. I happen to be part of the inside conversation in the planning of this event tomorrow. You'd be surprised. Well, you wouldn't be, Jesse. You've had this experience, but how difficult it is, particularly in today's climate, to even hold a march on Washington. If you think it was difficult in 1963, we have a climate today where they're making it very difficult to mobilize and organize this march. And so my hope and my message is in the courage and the leadership that we see in those principally responsible for that march, and particularly Reverend Al and Martin III, for what they are doing to make the call and to stand in the gap, to provide the leadership that's so necessary. So I have great faith and hope in that leadership, and how we, each and every one of us, even if we can't be there in person, we'll be there in spirit to support those who will call the nation to its conscience, to do the right thing, and to ensure that we have fair elections.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We have been in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. We're on our way to Washington, D.C. See you guys there tomorrow. We're going to Wake up the nation. Wait for a clarion call on the significance, the importance of the hour, as well as get our marching orders. Study war no more.
That's right.
Fight for justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. No justice, no peace. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. I'll see everybody on Monday.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.